Welcome back to the deep dive. I want you to just picture a room for a second. A room full of the smartest people on Earth.
The absolute peak of human intellect.
Exactly. We're talking physicists, cosmologists, mathematicians, and they're popping champagne.
Hugging each other.
Yeah, there are literal tears in their eyes. It's 2012, and they have just turned on the most expensive, the most complex machine humanity has ever built.
The Large Hadron Collider.
Right, the LHC. And they found exactly what they were looking for. The Higgs boson.
The famous God particle.
The God particle. It was a massive party.
It really was a monumental moment. I mean, it was the final piece of the puzzle for the standard model of physics. It felt like we had finally, cracked the code of the universe.
But here's the thing about parties. Eventually, the lights come on, right?
The music stops.
The music stops. And you have to deal with the hangover. Because after that champagne ran out, they turned the machine back on.
They did.
They cranked up the power because they were looking for the next thing.
Supersymmetry.
Supersymmetry. They were looking for dark matter particles.
Mini black holes.
Right. All the stuff that's supposed to explain the 95% of the universe that we just don't understand at all.
And they ran it for a year.
Yep.
Then 5 years. Then 10. I mean, they upgraded the luminosity. They built better detectors.
And what did they find?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Absolute silence. No supersymmetric partners. No WIMPs. No black holes.
Just the exact same old particles we already knew about.
Behaving exactly how we expected them to behave.
And that right there, that silence, that is the context for our deep dive today.
It's crucial context.
Because we aren't just talking about a cool new theory today. We are talking about what feels like a crime scene.
A stalled investigation.
Modern physics has hit a massive brick wall. We have all these beautiful theories, right?
String theory.
String theory, the multiverse, cosmic inflation, and they look perfect on paper.
The math is incredibly elegant. It sings.
It sings, but the universe refuses to play along. We just can't prove any of it.
And the mood in the scientific community has really shifted over the last decade.
How so?
Well, it went from this optimistic, we just need a bigger collider, to maybe we need a specific type of specialized detector, to now.
Where people are whispering.
Exactly. Whispering, maybe we broke physics.
Enter Philip Randolph Lillian.
Yes.
Today, we are deep diving into Chapter 12 of his Paradox Theories series.
A fascinating source.
Specifically, a document that dropped recently, dated 2026. It's titled The Unified Coherence Theory and the Ontological Limits of Proof.
It's quite a title.
It is. And Lillian is essentially the guy standing at the back of that silent, hungover room of physicists saying, you guys are never going to find anything.
And I can prove why.
Right. I can prove why you'll never find it.
It is a fascinating and, frankly, somewhat disturbing piece of work. Because he isn't saying we failed because we aren't smart enough.
Or that our tech isn't good enough.
Right. He's arguing that the problem is ontological.
Okay, let's just pause right there. Ontological. That is a $5 word if I ever heard one. We really need to strip that down before we go any further. For you listening, what are we actually talking about when he says the problem is ontological?
Well, ontology is the branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of being, of what actually exists.
Okay.
So when Lillian says the problem is ontological, he means we are trying to measure things that exist in a layer of reality that our instruments, by their very definition, cannot touch.
So it's not a technical failure.
No, it's a category error.
A category error. So it's like, imagine trying to measure the plot of a novel using a ruler.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. It's not that the ruler is broken.
And it's not that the plot isn't there in the book.
It's just that inches don't apply to narrative arcs.
That is a very close analogy. Lillian argues that reality is basically stratified.
It's layered.
It's layered. And we, as observers, along with all our machines or colliders or telescopes, we are stuck in a very specific layer. So if a theory describes a higher layer, we literally cannot catch it with our lower layer nets.
So the mission for today is to unpack this framework, the Unified Coherence Theory of Everything.
Or UCTE for short.
UCTE. We need to understand why our most famous theories are, as he puts it, misplaced.
Ontologically misplaced.
And we need to talk about why, according to this source, we might never be able to prove them in the way we traditionally want to.
It really is a journey into the absolute limits of knowledge itself.
Let's start with the basics then. The document talks a lot about unprovability.
It's the core theme.
Usually when I hear a scientist say a theory is unprovable, that's an insult.
Oh, absolutely.
It means it's garbage. It means it's based on faith, not science.
Right. In the traditional Popperian scientific method, yes. If you can't falsify it, if you can't test it, it's not science, it's philosophy.
But Lillian flips this completely.
He defines unprovability very differently.
How so?
In the context of the UCTE, unprovability doesn't mean a theory is false. It means the truth conditions of that theory, the actual mechanisms that make it true, lie outside the bandwidth that the observer can access.
Outside the bandwidth. Okay, I like that. So it's like if I'm listening to FM radio and the absolute truth of the universe is broadcasting on AM,
Yes.
or maybe on some frequency that my radio simply cannot tune into. I can't hear it, not because the music isn't playing.
But because your receiver is structurally incapable of processing that specific signal.
Exactly. And Lillian defines exactly what our receiver is, doesn't he?
He does. He introduces this concept of the Goldilocks band.
Or the coherence reduction band, I think he calls it.
Yes, the coherence reduction band.
I loved this part because he puts a highly specific number on our ignorance.
He doesn't just vaguely say, we're limited.
No, he gives us the exact coordinates of the cage we're in.
He does. The source states that human observers, and crucially, all our instruments, operate in a specific slice of reality.
And what's that slice?
Specifically, it's between 3.0D and 3.14D.
3.14, like pi.
It seems to be a very specific constant in his theory. It's likely related to the underlying geometry of how our local reality is structured.
So 3.0 to 3.14 dimensions.
Yes. The idea is that we are finite dimensional observers. We can only measure things that fit perfectly into this dimensional slice.
So anything that has more dimensions.
Or higher coherence, as he terms it.
It is simply invisible to us.
Completely invisible.
So if there is a massive phenomenon that happens at, say, 4D or 5D, up in the penthouse of reality,
we can't see it from the ground floor.
We can't measure it directly.
No. And to really understand why, we have to look at what he calls the ladder of reality.
The UCTE hierarchy.
Yes, this is the backbone of the entire argument. If we don't get this hierarchy, we really won't understand why he thinks modern physics is broken.
All right, let's climb the ladder for everyone listening. Walk us through these coherence layers, starting from where we are right now.
Okay, let's start at the bottom. At the very bottom, or let's call it layer 4, we have the derived layer.
Derived. That sounds like, I don't know, leftovers.
Or results. In a way, yes. This is the world of measurements of matter, particles, and what they call phenomenological models.
So the physical stuff.
Everything you can touch, see, or detect with a sensor exists right here in the derived layer.
Okay. So my coffee cup here.
Layer 4?
The microphone I'm talking into. The planet Earth.
All layer 4.
Even the Large Hadron Collider itself?
Precisely. It is all the output of the system.
The output. Got it. So what's above us?
Yeah, you move up one rung to layer 3. This is the relational layer.
The relational layer.
Yes. This is the world of fields, forces, and coupling structures. It's the invisible web of relationships that dictates how matter actually behaves.
Okay, so this is gravity, electromagnetism.
The rules of the road.
Right, so if the matter in layer 4 is the cars, the fields in layer 3 are the traffic laws.
That's exactly correct. Now, go up again, layer 2.
This one is called the hololectic layer, right?
Yeah, hololectic layer. And this is where it starts to get very abstract, because this is where geometry and dimensionality themselves emerge.
Wait, emerge?
Yeah.
Because usually we think of space and dimensions as just, well, being there.
Like a background stage.
Exactly. The stage that everything else happens on. We think of space as a big empty box, and we just put matter inside it.
And that is exactly the core error Lillian points out.
It is.
He says dimensionality isn't the background stage at all. It's something that is actively created or structured at this holotectic layer.
So space isn't the box. Space is what?
Think of a video game. When you play a game like Mario, he's moving left and right on a screen.
Yeah.
Does the left and right actually exist physically inside the computer code?
I mean, mathematically, sure. But not physically. The code is just a bunch of ones and zeros processing in a microchip.
Exactly. The space Mario runs through is just a projection on your monitor. It's an emergent property of the code processing.
So the hololectic layer is where the space of our universe is basically calculated.
It's the rendering engine of reality. And here is the kicker from the document. The source notes that this layer is entirely unprovable to classical physics.
Because classical physics is stuck downstairs in layer 4.
Looking at the pixels on the screen.
Trying to find the microchip inside the pixel.
Exactly. You'll never find it there.
Okay, that makes sense. And finally, The top row.
Layer 1, the omnelectic layer.
The omnelectic layer.
This is the ultimate source. Invariant generative coherence.
The document calls these the seed equations, doesn't it?
Yes. This is the pure, undifferentiated potential from which absolutely everything else flows downwards.
Okay, so we have this ladder, the omnelectic layer at the very top, flowing down to the hololectic rendering engine.
Then down to the relational traffic laws.
And finally to us, down here in the derived layer with our coffee cups and colliders.
Yes. And here is exactly where the problem arises in modern science.
Hit me.
Lillian identifies two key errors that he claims ruin modern physics.
The first one is ontological misplacement, right?
Yes, ontological misplacement.
Which is basically putting things in the wrong bucket.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's trying to explain a high-layer cause using low-layer effects.
Give me an example.
For example, trying to explain the origin of the universe, the Big Bang.
Okay.
That is clearly an omnelectic or hololectic event. But physicists try to explain it using particles, which are derived layer objects.
Oh, wow. So it's like trying to explain the architecture of a massive skyscraper by analyzing the chemical composition of the paint on the lobby wall.
That is a brilliant image.
Yes. You're never going to find the blueprint in the paint chips.
Never.
I mean, you can analyze that paint for 1,000 years. You'll know everything about the pigment, the binder, the drying time.
But you will never, ever know why the building is 50 stories tall.
Exactly. You were looking in the wrong layer.
And what's the second error?
The second error is dimensional misplacement.
Dimensional misplacement.
This is treating dimensions like the 3 dimensions of space we see around us as fixed things.
Like actual building blocks.
Right, rather than realizing they are emergent properties of that higher hololectic layer. So we treat space like a box that was already there instead of realizing the box is being built moment by this higher coherence.
Yes. And because of these two massive errors, we run headfirst into what Lillian calls the measurement closure theorem.
The measurement closure theorem. And this, I think, is the most sobering part of the entire document for any tech enthusiast.
It really pulls the rug out from under our technological optimism.
Yeah, this part hit me hard because we love our tech.
We do.
We love thinking that if we just build a bigger machine, if we just polish the lens of the telescope a little bit more, we'll eventually see further. We'll see the truth.
But the measurement closure theorem says, nope.
It says a hard no. What exactly is the rule here?
It says, any detector or machine is built out of the observer's layer.
Right.
Your electron microscope, your massive particle accelerator, your billion-dollar gravity wave detector. It is all made of matter.
It is all layer 4.
It is entirely layer 4.
So a layer 4 machine fundamentally cannot reach up and measure layer 2.
It absolutely cannot. The theorem states that a machine cannot breach its native coherence band.
So it doesn't matter how much energy we pump into the LHC.
It doesn't matter if you build a collider the size of the solar system. You are still just smashing layer 4 particles against layer 4 particles.
And you will only ever get layer 4 debris.
Exactly.
It's like, going back to the radio wave analogy, imagine you are trying to catch a radio wave with a butterfly net.
Yes.
You can build a bigger net.
You could build a net made of silk.
Or titanium. But a net, structurally, cannot catch a radio wave. The ontology of the tool doesn't match the ontology of the target.
That is the perfect summary. And this explains what the document fascinatingly calls the success horizon.
The success horizon. I found this concept so interesting because it deals with the standard model.
Right. We keep confirming the standard model of physics over and over again.
Every single time we smash particles, we find exactly what the standard model said we would find.
And physicists are actually disappointed by this.
They are desperate for an anomaly.
They want to find something that breaks the model, because that break would point to new physics.
But Lillian says we are trapped in our own success.
Yes. The standard model is the perfect ultimate description of the derived layer.
Layer 4.
Layer 4. So as long as we use layer 4 instruments, we will just keep confirming the standard model forever.
Wow.
We will never find the new stuff because the new stuff lives in layer 3 or layer 2.
And that leads directly to this wild concept of predictivity inversion.
This was a bit of a mind bender, wasn't it?
Total mind bender. Can you break this down for us? What is predictivity inversion?
It's a brilliant corollary. Usually in science, we think, if a theory can't be proved with an experiment, it's a bad theory.
Right.
Predictivity inversion suggests the opposite. It says that if a theory is mathematically perfect, elegant, and consistent, but empirically impossible to prove, that is actually a good sign.
Wait, unprovable is good. That sounds like a massive cop-out.
It sounds like one, but in this specific context, it's a validation.
How so?
Because it means the theory is correctly describing a higher layer, like layer 2 or layer 1.
Okay.
And since we know from the measurement closure theorem that we cannot measure those higher layers, a truly correct theory should be unmeasurable by us.
Oh, I see.
It's being misprojected down to our finite band. So the sheer frustration of string theorists is actually a form of validation.
Because they are seeing the math of the hololectic layer.
But they're desperately trying to test it in the derived layer.
That is incredibly convenient for string theorists, isn't it?
It is.
Like, my theory is completely unprovable because it's simply too true for you to handle.
It sounds convenient, yes, but under the UCTE framework, it is structurally consistent.
Right.
If you accept the existence of the layers, you have to accept that higher truths are intrinsically invisible to lower sensors.
Okay, let's get into the specific physics paradoxes.
Let's do it.
The document lists a bunch of famous theories that are stuck in this exact trap. And I want to really dig into these because this is where the rubber meets the road for the source material.
The practical applications of the theory.
Exactly. The first one is the big one. String theory.
Ah, yes. The paradox of surplus dimensionality.
Right. So, quick refresher for you listening. String theory is this incredibly complex idea that everything in the universe isn't made of tiny point particles, but actually tiny vibrating strings.
Right.
But for the math of string theory to actually work, the theory says we need 10 or 11 dimensions.
Yes, depending on the specific version of the theory. M theory requires 11.
But we look around and we clearly see 3 left, right, up, down, forward, back.
And maybe time is the fourth.
Right. So where are the other 6 or 7 dimensions?
That has always been the sticking point.
The standard excuse in physics is that they are compactified.
Curled up.
Curled up really, really small, like a tiny little loop at every single point in space. So small we just can't see them.
That's the standard view. We've been looking for these curled up dimensions for decades.
But Lillian says, no.
No. He says they aren't curled up tiny objects at all. The UCTE resolution is that those dimensions are coherence potentials.
Coherence potentials. Okay, what does that actually mean in plain English?
It means they exist in the hololectic layer as pure possibilities.
Possibilities.
They aren't physical places you can go to. They are mathematical degrees of freedom that haven't collapsed down into our 3D reality.
Oh, okay.
String theory is dimensionally misplaced. It treats these extra dimensions as literal objects in the relational layer, tiny tubes or knots of space.
When really they're emergent properties of the layer above.
Exactly.
So the math requires 11 dimensions because the source has that much potential.
But our screen only displays 3.
That is a perfect analogy. The video file has way more data than the monitor can display.
The monitor isn't broken.
The file isn't wrong.
It's just a mismatch in resolution.
Next up on the hit list, loop quantum gravity, LQG. This is the other big contender for the theory of everything.
The paradox of quantizing emergence.
This one tries to take space-time itself and chop it up into tiny little quantum chunks.
Quantizing the metric.
Like trying to find the fundamental atoms of space.
Yes, but UCTE says you simply cannot quantize space-time.
Why not?
Because space-time isn't a thing. It's an appearance.
An appearance.
It's a shadow cast by coherence from the upper layers.
The document used the phrase quantizing the shadow instead of the object. That really stuck with me.
Powerful imagery, isn't it?
Very.
Imagine a dark shadow cast on a wall. You can study that shadow. You can measure its length, its width.
But you can't chop the shadow itself into atoms.
You can't. The shadow is just a 2D projection. If you want to find the true atoms, you have to turn around and look at the physical object casting the shadow.
So LQG is obsessed with the floor layer 4 when all the real action is up in the light source at layer 1.
Precisely. They are mathematically dissecting a projection.
Got it. Okay, let's talk about the Big Bang, cosmic inflation.
The paradox of every possible universe.
This is the idea that the universe expanded faster than the speed of light for a tiny split second right at the very start.
Yes, and inflation theory relies heavily on something called an inflaton field.
Which, just to be clear, we've never seen.
And never will, according to Lillian.
Why is inflation a paradox in this framework?
The problem with inflation is that the math is so flexible it predicts everything. By adjusting the parameters of the model, you can produce literally any universe you want.
And if a theory predicts everything,
it predicts nothing uniquely. We can never actually measure the reheating phase or the potential of that specific field.
So what's the UCTE fix for the Big Bang? Instead of a balloon blowing up from an inflaton field, what actually happened?
UCTE replaces the inflaton field with something called hyperfractal dimensional unfolding.
Hyperfractal dimensional unfolding.
emanating from the universal field tensor.
That sounds like a Star Trek line. Captain, the hyperfractal unfolding is destabilizing the warp core.
It really does, doesn't it? But the core concept is quite elegant.
Lay it on me.
The idea is that the initial expansion wasn't a physical push from a field, like blowing air into a balloon.
Okay.
It was an unfolding of higher dimensions into lower ones.
Like origami.
Think of an intricate origami flower opening up. It gets physically bigger, but not because you pumped air into it.
It gets bigger because it is unfolding its latent geometry.
Exactly. There is no scalar field particle defined because it was a purely geometric event occurring in the hololectic layer.
Not a particle event in the derived layer.
Right. We are looking for the breath that blew up the balloon, but it was actually a flower blooming.
Okay, now we have to talk about dark matter.
Ah, the paradox of non-appearance.
This is the one that frustrates me the most personally. We are constantly told that 85% of the mass in the universe is totally invisible.
Dark matter.
And we spent 50 years looking for it. WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles, axions, you name it.
We've invested billions.
We buried giant vats of liquid xenon in abandoned gold mines. We put detectors in space. We haven't found a single one, not one particle.
And UCTE points out this is a classic textbook case of ontological misplacement.
Because we are looking for matter.
Yes. We assume that if there's a gravitational effect, if galaxies are spinning too fast, there must be solid stuff causing it.
Stuff made of particles. If I feel a pull, there must be a rope and someone holding it.
Right. But UCTE explicitly states dark matter is not a particle.
What is it then?
It is coherence loss and neutrino condensation within hypergravity field gradients.
Okay, unpack coherence loss for me.
Think of the universe as a tight, woven fabric of coherence originating from layer 1.
Okay.
In certain massive cosmic structures, that coherence drops or creates a local deficit.
A deficit.
That deficit creates a profound gravitational effect. It acts like a pull, but there is absolutely no solid matter there.
It's a shadow of a higher dimensional structure.
Essentially.
So we are down here in the dirt looking for a ghost particle, but it's actually just a dip in the fabric of reality.
Yes. We are desperately looking for layer 4 matter to explain a layer 3 or layer 2 field effect.
That's why the detectors always come up empty.
We are using a Geiger counter to try and find a whisper.
And finally, rounding out the physics side, the standard model itself. We touched on this, but let's formalize it.
The paradox of precision without explanation.
The standard model works perfectly to describe what happens. If I smash X and Y together, Z happens.
With incredible decimal point precision.
But it cannot explain why.
That's the limit.
Why are there exactly 3 generations of matter? Why does the electron have that one specific mass and not another? Why is the fine structure constant roughly 1 over a 137?
The standard model just shrugs and essentially says, those are the numbers, deal with it.
It's descriptive, but not explanatory.
Exactly. And UCTE says, of course it is. You can't explain the deep foundation of a building if you start your analysis on the 4th floor.
Because the constants aren't determined in the derived layer.
No, they're set far above
Yeah.
in the hololectic and omnelectic layers, and those values just flow down to us.
So looking for the ultimate origin of mass inside the standard model is futile.
Completely futile.
It seems like every major field of modern physics is just banging its head against this invisible glass ceiling between layer 4 and layer 3.
That is the central thesis of Lillian's critique.
But it doesn't stop at physics, does it?
No, it expands significantly.
Lillian takes this entire framework and applies it to biology and the mind.
And that is where things get really controversial.
Oh, yeah. Section 4, the biology and mind paradoxes. Let's start with Darwin.
The paradox of randomness.
The conflict here is between entropy and teleonomy.
Let's define teleonomy for the listeners. It's the apparent purposefulness and goal-directedness of structures and functions in living organisms.
Right. Classical evolution relies heavily on random mutation.
A cosmic ray hits a DNA strand, flips a random chemical bit, and maybe, just maybe, you get a slightly better eye over millions of years.
Pure luck. A billion years of rolling the cosmic dice.
But life moves toward more coherence,
Mm-hmm.
more intelligence, more complex structure.
And in physics, randomness creates entropy, disorder.
Exactly. If you shuffle a deck of cards randomly, You don't accidentally build a perfect house of cards.
You get a mess.
You get a scattered mess.
So Lillian is arguing that pure randomness shouldn't be able to create the staggering complexity of life.
He argues it's mathematically highly improbable without a guiding framework.
So what's his alternative?
He introduces the concept of coherent selection.
Coherent selection.
He argues evolution isn't just random luck filtering through survival. It is actively driven by phase-aligned coherence attractors.
Attractors, like evolution is literally being pulled toward a goal.
Pulled toward higher states of coherence. The source specifically mentions the bioelectric code and hologene layers.
Hologene.
The idea is that biological structure is actually guided by these higher layer templates. The physical DNA in layer 4 is just the 3D printer.
Whoa. The DNA is just the printer.
The actual design schematic comes from the hologene in layer 2 or 3.
So we aren't just random accidents of chemistry. We are coherence actively exploring and building itself.
That's the poetic but accurate take on his theory, yes.
Right.
It completely shifts biology from a push mechanism, random mutations pushing us blindly forward,
to a pull mechanism, coherence pulling us upward toward complexity.
Precisely.
And that leads perfectly into the absolute biggest mystery of all, consciousness.
The hard problem.
The paradox of mind without a coherence field.
Current neuroscience tries very hard to explain the mind entirely as neurons firing.
Just meat processing electricity.
Right. Neurons are physical, biological switches existing in 3.0D space.
The wet computer theory. The brain is the hardware, the mind is just the software running on it.
But Lillian argues that qualia,
Qualia, meaning the subjective experience, right?
yes, the actual raw feeling of seeing the color red or tasting chocolate or feeling love, he argues that qualia simply doesn't happen in 3.0D space.
Where does it happen?
The source is remarkably specific here. It says qualia arises from curvature collapse in the 2.5 CD qualionomic band.
2.5D, that's oddly specific. Why a fractional dimension?
It suggests that consciousness operates in a slightly different fractal dimensional slice than our physical bodies.
Not quite 3D, but not 2D either.
It's a fractal interface between layers.
So my physical brain is operating in 3.0D.
But your mind, your subjective experience, is in 2.50D.
And that is why we have the massive mismatch in neuroscience.
Exactly. We are trying to explain a 2.5D phenomenon using strictly 3.0D biological models.
It's another dimensional error.
You could map every single neuron and synapse in the human brain perfectly, and you would never find the feeling of love.
Because a feeling exists in a totally different coherence band.
The biology is just the antenna receiving the signal.
This is wild. It implies that our subjective experience is actually closer to the core of reality, or at least functionally different than the physical world we see with our eyes.
It firmly suggests the mind isn't just a byproduct of matter. It has its own foundational ontological status.
Which brings us to Section 5, the meta-paradoxes.
This is where the framework looks at itself.
Because if the mind is real and the observer is real, where do they fit in a theory of everything?
This is the classic toe paradox. A true theory of everything must, by definition, explain everything.
And that includes the person making the theory?
Right. Usually the scientist tries to stand totally outside the experiment. I am here, the universe is over there.
I am the objective observer looking through the glass at the bugs.
But if you are physically part of the universe, the theory has to explain you too. It's a closed loop.
A theory cannot contain the observer that validates it.
Classical theories struggle with this immensely.
So how does UCTE solve this loop?
By introducing the meta-operator.
The meta-operator.
UCTE defines reality as being actively generated by two distinct operators working together in tandem.
Okay, what's the first one?
First, consciousness, which acts as the symmetry coherence operator.
Then the second.
The observer, which acts as the asymmetry resonance operator.
Okay, let's unpack that. Symmetry and asymmetry.
Think of it this way. Consciousness holds the coherence, the fundamental unity, the oneness of the system.
Okay.
The observer creates the separation, the measurement, the me versus you, the collapse of the quantum wave function into a single reality.
So together, they generate reality.
They do. The major takeaway is that the observer isn't an anomaly or an annoyance in the physics equations.
You aren't just a passive camera recording a pre-existing universe.
You are a constitutive generator of reality. You are an integral part of the machine that makes the world exist.
That is heavy. It obviously connects to quantum mechanics, the famous observer effect, but it takes it so much further.
It elevates it. It says reality literally is the interplay of baseline consciousness and active observation.
Precisely. And this framework helps Lillian tackle Gödel's theorem, doesn't it?
It does.
Gödel, the guy who basically broke math.
In a way, yes. Kurt Gödel famously proved his incompleteness theorems. He proved that no formal mathematical system can ever prove its own consistency.
Meaning, there will always be true statements within the system that the system itself simply cannot prove.
Exactly.
So if physics is entirely based on math, and math is inherently incomplete, then physics must be incomplete.
That is the direct physics application. No mathematical physics theory, like string theory, no matter how elegant, can ever prove itself entirely from within.
It will always have logical holes.
Always.
So how does UCTE claim to escape the Gödel trap?
By claiming to be preformal.
Preformal.
It grounds itself in what Lillian calls seed invariants.
Seed invariants.
Things that exist before formal logic and math even emerge in the lower layers.
Give me an example from the source.
The source lists examples like 0 factorial equals 1, or 0 to the power of 0 equals 1.
Okay.
These are mathematical singularities. They aren't proven, they just are. They are axiomatic.
Right.
Lillian argues UCTE starts directly at these seed equations up in the omnelectic layer, before the formal breakable logic of the derived layer kicks in.
So it steps entirely outside the system to explain the system.
That is the bold claim. It's theoretically the only way to beat Gödel.
Okay, we have to touch on the multiverse and simulation theory before I move to the end. Because everyone loves a good simulation theory.
They really do.
We all want to know if we are living in the Matrix.
And Lillian, well, he completely hates it.
He does. He dismisses it as a low-layer metaphor.
If you think about it within his framework, it makes sense. Simulation theory says our universe is a computer simulation run by a much higher civilization.
Right.
But computers, even quantum ones, are layer 4 objects. They compute.
So we are just projecting our current level of technology computers onto the ultimate nature of reality.
Exactly. It creates a recursive, unresolvable error. Who built the physical computer that simulates our computer?
It's turtles all the way down.
Right. UCTE says reality isn't a mechanical simulation, it's coherence, emanation.
Emanation, so it's organic, not digital.
It's a flowering from a seed, not a computation running on a processor.
I like that. And what about the multiverse? Marvel has made us all experts on parallel timelines.
He calls the multiverse a terminal case of unprovability.
Ouch.
He fundamentally reframes the entire multiverse concept. There aren't parallel physical worlds out there where there is another you who had oatmeal for breakfast instead of eggs.
Ah, man. I like that guy. He probably has a way better car than me.
I'm sorry to disappoint. Lillian says the multiverse represents all possible coherence reduction paths.
Okay, translating that.
They exist as pure potential. They are the roads not taken, held in the hololectic layer.
So they are real as possibilities, as mathematical potentials.
But they absolutely do not have physical, localized existence in our layer 4. They are just the ghosts of what could have been.
Okay, so we have this massive sweeping framework.
It's extremely comprehensive.
It explains why we can't prove things. It explains consciousness, dark matter, evolution.
It attempts to unify them all.
But the skeptic in me, and I really hope your inner skeptic is screaming right now as you listen to this, says, "Great story, bro. But if everything is unprovable, isn't UCTE also inherently unprovable?"
A very fair critique.
Yeah. Isn't this just fancy philosophy wrapped up in physics jargon?
That is the ultimate question. And to his credit, Lillian anticipates it perfectly in Section 6.
Testing the untestable.
Exactly. What can we actually do?
Because if the measurement closure theorem is true and we can't build a machine to measure layer 2, aren't we just permanently stuck?
Lillian fully admits we cannot measure L1 or L2 directly, but he says they cast shadows or echoes down into our layer.
The unprovability shadow.
Yes. We can look for specific anomalous footprints in layer 4 that point to the higher layers.
Give me the predictions. What exactly are we looking for to prove this isn't just a thought experiment?
Prediction 1. Neutrino anomalies. We should look closely for coherence dispersion anomalies and neutrino propagation.
Meaning neutrinos behaving badly.
Meaning they disperse or change flavors in highly specific ways that current particle physics simply cannot explain, but which perfectly match a coherence loss model.
Okay, so this would look very different than if a dark matter particle were physically knocking them around.
Yes. We need to look at the behavior of neutrinos traveling through deep space voids.
Got it. What's prediction 2?
Prediction 2, the fine structure constant.
This is the number that defines how strong the electromagnetic force is, right? Roughly 1 over 137.
Yes. Standard physics says it is an absolute constant. It never changes anywhere in the observable universe at any time.
And UCTE says?
UCTE says ultra-precise measurements over vast distances should show it isn't completely constant. It runs or deviates slightly due to hypergravity curvature.
So if we measure it really, really carefully across different cosmic epochs and it wobbles.
That's a massive point for UCTE. And more importantly, that is a testable, falsifiable prediction using layer 4 instruments.
Excellent. And prediction 3?
Prediction 3, directed biological adaptation.
This one is the coolest one to me.
It is radical. Experiments should show that under controlled coherence fields, assuming we figure out how to generate or isolate them, biology adapts in a highly directed way.
Not random mutation.
No. If you put a stressed colony of bacteria in a specific coherence field, they should evolve toward the solution much faster than random chance allows.
Proof of teleonomy.
Yes. It would revolutionize biology overnight.
It would literally rewrite the textbooks. It would empirically prove that life has an underlying direction.
It would be the biggest discovery since DNA.
So let's wrap this incredible journey up. We started with a major crisis. Physics is stuck.
We have brilliant, beautiful theories that we simply cannot prove.
And we ended with a radical diagnosis. We are stuck because we are trying to force the infinite ocean into a finite thimble.
We're trying to measure the infinite source, the omnelectic, with finite derived tools.
The whole journey through the ladder of reality really shifts your perspective. It changes unprovability from a depressing dead end into a flashing signpost.
Exactly. It's a diagnostic signal. It tells us, stop banging your head against the wall. You are looking at the wrong rung of the ladder.
If you encounter an insurmountable paradox, check your ontological settings.
Ensure you aren't committing a category error.
And I really love the empowering part of this whole theory. We aren't just passive dust in the cosmic wind.
No.
Through the meta-operator, we are active, necessary participants. We literally help generate the coherence of reality.
We are the critical interface, where the symmetry of fundamental consciousness meets the asymmetry of physical observation.
Which leaves me with one final kind of provocative thought, something I was mulling over while reading his stuff about the Goldilocks band.
Let's hear it.
If all our scientific machines are structurally stuck in layer 4, operating in that 3.0B to 3.14D slice, but our consciousness, our minds, our qualia
operates in the 2.5 ZD qualionomic band.
Right. Does that inherently mean our minds actually have direct access to layers of reality that our machines will never, ever be able to touch?
That is the direct implication of his work.
Are we the only instrument capable of breaching the measurement closure theorem? Can we internally feel the truth that the LHC can never physically see?
It completely forces us to reconsider the role of the human being in science. We usually think of ourselves as these highly flawed, biased observers, always messing up the pristine, objective data.
The ghost in the machine that needs to be factored out?
Exactly. But UCTE suggests that maybe our subjective experience is actually a higher fidelity access point to base reality than any objective measurement could ever be.
Maybe the only true ultimate detector is us.
That is a very profound thought to end on.
Something worth sitting with, for sure. On that note, thanks for diving deep with us today. Keep feeling the coherence out there, everyone.
See you all in the next layer.
Bye for now.